Hey.
Hey.
It's Friday, and we are live and alive.
It stinks every time you read it.
This is Ari, the Data Queen, joined by analyst Holt Matt Moscardi, Jesse, the Money Whisperer, and Hazelnut Rawless. On today's weekly wrap-up, Story of the Week, Goodliest of the Week, Assholiest of the Week, Exhausting of the Week. I don't know.
Yeah, stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, what an enthusiastic opening.
Yeah, listen to that. What is that?
We ran out of coffee this morning, and I've been drinking instant coffee today, and it's not doing it for me. It's not doing it.
That's not going to do it.
Who's supposed to be staying on top of the inventory?
I know. I don't know. Good question. That's not helping, though, that question, Jesse.
Sounds like you need to assign it to someone.
Yeah, maybe you should do fair play cards. Figure out who's in charge of what.
Ari is out, so I will attempt to fill in her small shoes. I'm guessing they're small shoes, and try to be the host today for the Friday show.
She's not that small.
I've already screwed up.
Average size shoes
compared to me. I've already screwed up because I didn't actually summarize the stories. I don't even know what we're talking about today, which is good. It'll be a surprise for me.
That's good. It's all a surprise.
Usually I read the script beforehand, but I'm glad I didn't read the script. I don't know what's happening.
All right, let's do this thing then.
Come on. Story of the week with me, Hazelnut Rawless. I have 4 strange stories. As Jesse alluded to in pre-production, it's a strange news week. I don't know if it's a Super Bowl hangover, but there's just a weird week in general. Am I wrong about this?
I agree.
It was up and downy.
Up and downy.
I don't know.
That's descriptive of nothing, but
we spent all week trying to get the technology to work so we could actually do a show this week because our vendor just exploded.
Stay tuned for our predictions. That's one of my predictions at the end of the show. All right.
Ooh,
I have
foreshadow.
My voice I think I just entered puberty. I have 4 very nerdy ESG centered stories this week.
Cool.
I don't know.
Why
cool.
so many?
Excited to hear that.
I don't know how cool. First of all, let's go in no particular order. JP State Street quit climate group. BlackRock steps back. So, BlackRock, I guess, JP State Street are completely out. While BlackRock said it has transferred its membership to its international arm. I don't really know what that means, but these decisions together removed nearly $14 trillion of total assets from efforts to coordinate Wall Street action on tackling climate change. And this is part of a coalition called Climate Action 100+. So they are pulling out after that coalition asked everyone to take stronger action. And I guess so JP State Street, BlackRock are basically all giving up. I don't know if it was a coordinated effort to give up. I don't know if this is because they can't handle idiotic senators from Missouri yelling at them. I don't know what it is, but they've all giving up at once.
But shouldn't we all give up on the idea that someone who their living is buying and selling stocks and taking a cut of the trades is not going to solve climate change for us? Can we just dispense with that concept?
But then who else can we look to help?
Nobody.
These are 2 of the largest shareholders. I mean, State Street and BlackRock. Yeah.
Yeah, and they vote entirely with management. For 1 year after the pandemic, they voted for a lot of climate change related things, and now they've gone back to what they always do. I hear what you're saying,
but we can still press them to do a thing. Is the whole point?
You don't think it's worth it to demand better?
No, I'm saying we've been pressing them for 25 years, and what has been the result?
So you're saying this isn't story of the week.
Oh, how dare you. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander said that these enormous financial institutions are failing in their fiduciary duty and putting trillions of dollars of their clients' assets at risk. He said climate risk is financial risk.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good math.
See,
good math.
Knows.
Brad, I know you listen to the show. Come on the show. Just to talk to us about it.
It's a sad story. That's out of Reuters. The next story is out of, where's this? Oh, the New York Times. The New York Times is getting involved in our world and corporate governance. Here's the headline: Tesla's chair under scrutiny for oversight of Elon Musk. First of all, I'm going to go back to one of my number one gripes in this world. Maybe part of the reason why you're upset at Tesla's chair for not doing a thing is that you don't even name her in your headline. Like don't
Yes.
stop. New York Times, everybody stop letting these people hide, because that's what they do. They're upset that Robin Denholm, who's the chair of Tesla, is not doing a thing, that she kind of is very quiet. She doesn't post on social media, but you're part of the problem. Call her out. Use her name. Talk about the board. Just talk about it.
They only in the article they mention only in slight passing that Elon's brother is on the board. They just say like Denholm, who
Putting it all on Denholm's shoulders.
They're like talking about it like she works. The entire board got incredibly wealthy because of Elon Musk. They're all connected to Elon Musk. She was chosen as the chair. He was the chair and CEO. He was stripped of his chair role because of his
Horrible
tweet
tweeting
about taking the company public, or
His
private,
fraud,
rather.
his lying, yeah.
His fraudy tweet. And then after they stripped him of the chair role, they could only fill that role with an independent director. And there were only
She's the
two
only
options
one.
on the board. Everybody else was compromised. So at that point, it was like, and now she's getting all the scrutiny. It's a little stupid.
Well, the funny thing too is that this article cites, first of all, she happens to be a quiet woman from Australia, so I don't know how that happened. But they refer to her as the adult in the room. Why is she the adult in the room? Why do we think? Because she's a
Sheryl
woman?
Sandberg
Is that the only
was
reason?
the adult in the room too. Yeah, it's mom. What they mean to say is that she's the group mom.
Okay,
that
but
they're moms.
This
Does
is
she have influence? What's her influence?
Well, it doesn't matter, because as our influence shows, Elon Musk has 70% of influence,
Yeah.
and there are reports this week that he has just bought another like 8%
Yeah.
of shares at Tesla, so his influence just keeps going up and up and up. I want to repeat the words from Chancellor Kathleen McCormick of the Delaware Court of Chancery, because she said in her ruling against Musk's ridiculous pay package that Ms. Denholm took a lackadaisical approach to her oversight obligations.
Ooh.
And then she questioned something very important, something that I rail against for years, which is that calling these directors independent in the first place is bizarre, but especially Robin Denholm. She questioned whether Ms. Denholm could be independent from Elon Musk because her job on Tesla's board has earned her more than $280 million because of her
Yes.
equity. So the whole system
a lot of dollars.
is messed up to begin with. How is she independent? It defies any logic. Finally, she says that Musk operates as if free of board oversight. So again, I want just a shout out to the judge, Kathleen McCormick. I love her.
How could that be?
So that's the second story of the week, that the New York Times is weighing in on corporate governance at Tesla. The third story of the week, Matt, you covered this at a previous show. I'm not going to go too much into depth here, but BlackRock rolls out proxy voting choice for individual investors. This seems
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, this seems important, Matt. But you made the case pretty well yesterday, I believe, that the choice results in not in you getting to vote your shares the way you want to, but in another layer of bureaucracy where you get to
Yes.
pick different versions of voting at BlackRock that all result in supporting management to the tune of 98% of the time, right? That's basically
we did in the show we did what we call the Kimball Musk test, which is would Kimball Musk have been elected as a director on Tesla by any of the choices that BlackRock's now offering you?
The brother of the CEO.
100% of the choices that you have, you would have elected Kimball Musk. So what kind of choice is that? What are we really talking about here?
Yeah, that's the third story of the week. And finally, the fourth story is one I had to cover because we talk about the people at these companies. This is from one of the largest. It's a company we don't talk about a lot, First Energy out of Ohio, but they are S&P 500. They are this is a big market cap company. Yeah.
Was this the company that had like the most diverse board, one of the
No.
most diverse boards in the country? No,
No.
it's a different Ohio company.
There are different utilities that remarkably have very diverse boards. This is not one of them. So the headline is what am I talking about? Oh, former First Energy CEO Chuck Jones and former Senior Vice President Michael Dowling were indicted on Monday in the long-running investigation into a $60 million bribery scheme in Ohio that has already resulted in a 20-year prison sentence for former State House Speaker. One article I was looking at said that Chuck Jones, the former CEO, was so pumped about the Ohio's nuclear bailout bill passing in 2019 that he sent this is the CEO of First Energy. He sent a photoshopped image of faces on Mount Rushmore, including the state's top utility regulator, with a caption that read, House Bill 6, fuck anybody who ain't us.
Oh my God.
That's so Enron-y.
Right? So anyway,
my God.
he's been indicted this week. And I want to point out something that I found. So I did a little digging into some of their proxy statements. And this is why the people are important. And this is why it's important to spend some time in these proxy statements. Something that I guess BlackRock does not do because they love
That's
every
correct.
director.
They don't do that.
But
yeah.
listen to this. In the final proxy statement before Jones was fired, this is the 2021 proxy statement, there are 4 instances of nepotism attached to CEO Chuck Jones. First Energy had hired his brother, James Jones, his son-in-law, John Kulik, his daughter, Carly Lang, and another son-in-law, Kyle Lang. 4 members of Chuck Jones's family. I mean, this is why you have to pay attention to this stuff.
No, those people don't matter.
4. This is the
F
guy
anybody
who got
who
indicted.
ain't us. That's
It doesn't matter. It really does matter. It really does. Anyway,
All right,
those are my 4 nerdy stories.
So those are the stories. It is JP Morgan State Street quitting the Climate Action 100. It is Tesla. Everyone discovering that Tesla's board has a chair and criticizing her. BlackRock rolling out proxy voting choice, sort of fake choices, and First Energy executives' indictments for their bribery scandal. Jesse, you got a vote to start?
I guess
one.
Ari's not here, so
Yeah, you
I
have to start
have
because
to go
there's
first.
there's nobody else. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with JP Morgan State Street quit climate.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I can see why.
Yeah, I this one's hard for me because the Tesla
There's
chair
no
under scrutiny. I
surprise.
don't like that. That's even a like. Come on, that should have
Well,
been a
Matt,
story
eventually-
a million years
Well,
ago.
it's good to bring awareness, right? Like there's some bit of awareness that they're bringing. I mean,
Well,
it's a terrible headline, but
Well, I agree, Jesse. What I really despise is that eventually they'll find a woman to blame at all of these, right? They'll like dig around and they'll find a scapegoat that's not Elon Musk. It just happens to be a woman.
Well, it's just like Sheryl Sandberg used to get castigated for not
Yeah.
controlling
Oh,
Mark Zuckerberg.
people hated her.
and now it's like Robin Denholm's getting scrutinized for not controlling Elon Musk, and yet somehow the stories are not about how Elon Musk does whatever he wants. He's the richest man in the world. He's a giant man baby. Because that story's not interesting anymore. We all know that. So now we find, well, who was the adult in the room? Oh, it was the mom. It was the chair mom. And where were they? They weren't. It's like, like a bully punches, a kid in the playground, and the bully is like, well, my mom never taught me not to. It's her fault that I punched somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like, fine.
And
it might be, but also yours. Also you should get the punishment.
I do agree with you, Jesse, that I think it's great that the New York Times is talking about it. But the problem is that the New York Times does not have our data, because if they had our data, they would know that there's nothing that Robin Denholm can do about this. Elon Musk simply should not be on that board. That is really the only way to control him, I guess, is to remove him from the board and maybe and also to refresh the board with actual independence. But he shouldn't even be on that board in the first place because he will dominate it.
It's a one share, one vote company. This headline should read, investors are culpable for everything Elon Musk does. They voted in every board member. They have all the power at a one share, one vote company. They could vote directors out. They could vote directors in. They could slate it using universal proxy cards in the last year. There's so many things that investors could do, but they don't care. Stuart Kirk is right. No one cares as long as you're making
Stuart Kirk's
money.
not right about anything. What's your vote?
My vote here is actually the proxy voting choice.
Oh.
I'm gonna go. I want to make it a tie, so you have to choose something.
Reason why? Why do you think? Why is that your number one? Why is that your
Because
story of the
look,
week?
this is going to it's individual investors, it's retail investors, and it's the largest fund in the world, the ETF IVV. So the chances are everybody listening to this either has or knows someone who has money in the S&P 500 ETF run by BlackRock. It's the most widely traded ETF in the world. And they're rolling this choice out to those investors. If nothing else, what it should do is signal to those investors, hey, we get like no real choices here. We've never really gotten choices here. And they should all go to freeflowanalytics.com and actually use the data that is on the website to make the choices. We give them the data. That's
the part I agree with at the end there. I'm going to break the tie. You know what? I'm gonna vote for JP Morgan, State Street, BlackRock quitting this climate group because I'm just glad that it's easy to. So for so long we were conflicted because the right wing was attacking Larry Fink. They were attacking State Street, JP Morgan for being too woke. I'm just glad that I have more reasons to hate BlackRock again.
Oh, well, you could have hated them for the voter choice.
Well,
too.
I actually hate them
the
for
one I chose.
not buying our data.
There we go.
And if you do buy our data, I will love you.
Let's do Goodliest of the Week. Damien, are you doing it, or am I doing it?
I
or
can
is
do
Jesse doing
Goodliest
it?
quickly. Jesse, you do Goodliest of the Week.
Okay. All right. Goodliest of the week. Here we go. Delta paying $1.4 billion in profit-sharing payments to employees.
Whoa, that actually sounds good. Did Ari actually compile these stories? That actually sounds
Ari
good.
did compile these stories.
She did.
Before she
did.
went home sick again.
All right, here are the details. On Wednesday, more than 100,000 Delta employees below mid-level management received a profit-sharing payment averaging $14,000 or about 10% of their annual salary.
Wait, is this like a Onion article? Like this is real?
Yeah, it's real. The payout is up to 146% increase from the payout of 2022.
But where's the buyback? We need a buyback. This is her.
Yeah, that's correct.
This is what can happen when you don't buy back.
How dare
I
you take care of your employees? You should be taking care of shareholders.
Wow, Delta.
Yeah,
Wow.
where's my
Impressive.
$14,000 check?
All right, good find, Ari.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's move on. You're going to love this one, Damien. France halts.
Oh, that's it. Just stop with France.
That's his winner. France halts €100 a month electric car leasing scheme after huge demand.
I'm so jealous. Jesse, think about it. Look, it's sad that they had to stop the program.
So he obviously read this story.
He knows what's happening.
Well,
Yeah.
I read all these stories. I tag all these stories. I send these to Ari, but that's not the point. Jesse.
Yes.
For €100 a month, you could lease an electric car. I mean, come on, how great is that? Like
great.
€100.
I also read, to piggyback on this, I also read that France decided to remove some of the, like, they put a threshold on federal incentives for people that make a lot of money, which is great for EVs specifically. So they're
That's
also
not great.
doing that. Yeah.
No, my wife makes all of our
For
money,
you,
so
I want
as many
come on.
incentives as possible.
You guys,
That's the way this works.
Just pay for the car.
That story is pretty good too. Was
Pretty
Ari in a
good.
good mood? You know what? Here's the thing.
It is great.
Ari has a cold. That's why she's not here today.
Yeah.
And she came in and snorkeled for a half an hour, banged out these stories, and went home. My guess is when she has a fever, this is what we get. We actually get
a
decent
non-cynical version of Ari. Good.
It's hard to be cynical when
Because
you wish you were
I
lying
love
down.
these two stories. I just think, yeah. What else, Jesse?
All right, last one. Number of American workers hitting the picket lines more than doubled last year as unions flexed.
I feel less good about that. I'm happy about it, but
We know it's Ari. We had to have some sort of
No,
union.
look, I
There's
would
no
love
batteries
this.
Story.
involved. I mean, there is EVs, I guess.
I would love this, except that
Let
union
me see if I
membership
could get some details.
overall is down, which is disheartening. And of course, it's never a good situation when you have to hit a picket line. I mean, it's a scary thing for workers. So, but
Well,
anyway.
here's your summary. So you've got Delta paying out $1.4 billion in profit-sharing payments that weren't profit-sharing payments as a buyback to investors. It went to actual employees. France halts the €100 a month electric car leasing scheme, but only because there's so much demand for it that they had to halt it. There were more than 90,000 applications, and American workers hit picket lines more than twice as much as they did last year.
I'll say this too. Unlike West Hartford, Connecticut, there's a lot of places in France that plug in your stupid car.
That's true. Damien, do you have a vote?
Oh my! I mean, this is just easy home run for me. I mean, Delta profit sharing. Are you
Really?
kidding me?
Delta?
I mean,
Delta.
what are we
you're
talking
both
about here?
Delta,
sweeping it.
Delta.
No, mine is France. I would have
Wow.
gone France.
Well, the
I would've
France thing
gone
is
with
difficult,
We're right
Matt,
this week,
because they're
Damon.
halting the
I
program,
know.
which I feel
Just
sad
let it.
about.
Just let it ride.
Look, it just means they're gonna launch it again because they had so much demand. I mean,
Hopefully they're
that's a lot.
Teslas. Hopefully they're only Teslas because that's the only EV that matters.
All right. Well, that's good leads of the week. Delta paying out a lot of money. Let's go to something less fun. Assholiest of the week. All right,
Oh,
number one assholiest of the week is People Don't Matter, part
feeling good.
6,246.
One of my favorite categories. Yeah.
It is the category that keeps on giving. This is the headline: Tesla and Elon Musk show why governance doesn't matter until it does. And what's interesting about this headline,
Yeah. This is from the Wall Street Journal.
is in the Wall Street Journal, the Murdoch paper, where there's a Murdoch on the board doing poor governance at Tesla.
Yeah, James Murdoch.
That is ironic.
So here's a line from it. Their disproportionate voting rights and influence also put them in a position to disregard the views and interests of other owners. That's talking about how these tech bro-y founders, CEOs are used. What I like about this line is it says influence. And you can actually get a number
Hey,
for influence.
whoa.
It does exist. We have it.
I gotta say, and to be serious for a second, it is the one thing that excites me most about our company and our data is that we have the only tool that I know of, the only data point that I know of that quantifies the power of Elon Musk. Because up until now, the only way you can really do it is anecdotally. I mean, of course, you can assume he's in charge because he's an a-hole, but we've quantified that, which I just think is exciting.
That's the data point most people use. He's an a-hole, so he must be in charge.
But
Damien mentioned,
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this headline. I don't want to belabor. But what are they talking? What does that mean? Shows why governance matters until it doesn't matter until it does.
They're basically talking about how Musk has
I had a
hurt
paywall.
the company, and there's no governance. No one cared about governance because they were getting tremendous shareholder
So
returns.
it's tongue in cheek.
It's basically like it's the Stuart Kirk line. As long as you're making money, no one cares. And then as soon as you stop making money or it becomes a liability, then all of a sudden everyone talks about governance.
Which is crazy to me because when did the focus become on short-term gains? I thought the whole why we all worship
it's always
Warren
been on
Buffett.
short-term.
But I thought the reason why we all worship Warren Buffett is that it's all about the long-term
No.
health of your companies and your stocks.
We like his folksy approach to buying taffy candies.
But it's
that's
long
what we
term.
like.
He's into long term investing. is he
Yeah,
not?
but if he didn't make a lot of money in the short term and the long term, we
right.
wouldn't care about
Anyway,
him so
I'm-
much. And meanwhile, just as a sort of subheader to this, this headline stuck out. Microsoft says Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China are beginning to use generative AI in offensive cyber attacks. And in case we need a
knew that was
reminder,
happening.
we knew this was going to happen, but in case we needed a reminder why governance should matter, not not matter. Like, it should matter all the time. OpenAI lost its mind when 2 female board members actually followed the mandate of the company. And that mandate being do not destroy humanity. They fired the women, they just in the last month removed language from their policies that allow for military use of their products. And they've made sure Sam Altman has a clear path to billionaire with zero oversight. That's happening as we're getting a report from Microsoft, the biggest investor in OpenAI, that Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China are using generative AI in cyber attacks.
I mean, of course, though. I mean, right? Of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course. But
another
this
reason
is
why I harp on
guardrails matter. This is why governance matters.
Even before OpenAI became a thing, this is one of the issues that I harp on the most is like waiting for boards to add this skill set. Instead of having like 10 CEOs all used to be, work at Domino's, like when are we going to focus? I mean, this is coming. I mean, the disruption in this space is eventually going to hit the fan. I mean, how could it not? How could this not be the future of warfare, really?
If you listen to the Proxy Countdown, which is our other show, which you should listen to, a lot of what's coming up is the skills of the board, how it mismatches the future trajectory of these companies. So basically, our boards are always behind the future because we keep just saying yes to whoever management chooses, and management chooses whoever's going to say yes to them. That's the way the cycle works. But let's get to number 2. Number 2 is People Don't Matter, part 6,247. We're one more.
Okay.
Here was the headline: Disneyland character performers announce plans to unionize.
Ooh.
So that's not the bad thing.
Character performers.
Yeah, I was going to say this doesn't sound.
Yeah, that's the
What is
person who
that?
dresses up
Goofy hat?
as Mickey
As-
Mouse and
Yeah.
Cinderella or whatever, and they walk around the parks and they're like, come play with me, really creepily.
I've never been to Disneyland, thank the Lord. But how many of those are there? Are there a lot of those people?
Probably a lot.
There's a lot.
okay.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, can I ask
'cause
one
you're
more
talking
question?
about
Are there multiple Mickey Mice like the Santa Claus? Is there more than one in the park so
Yeah.
they cover
yeah,
more
of
ground?
course.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
that's-
there's the parks are so
Sounds
large.
like you
wrong.
kind of want to go.
You
That's
can't
wrong.
go to all the parks. There's multiple Mickey
No.
mice
there's
mouses.
like many parks.
And
yeah.
they're all happening at the same time.
I'm
And
against
there's-
multiple Mickey Mice.
There's
against.
actually limitations for how long you can be in the suits because most of the parks are in hot places. So you can't actually be in the suits for that long. You need to like get out and otherwise.
out of
Probably
Florida.
had
Yeah,
to,
move
they
to
probably
Maine.
had to fight for that limitation.
Well, here's why I picked
Probably
the story. Because this is who's going to be discussing the unionization strategy with Bob Iger. Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, is battling in the middle of a proxy battle.
Beautiful Bob.
And now he's facing unionization at his parks for the character performers. And this is who he's got to turn to and ask on the board. Mary Barra, who is the CEO of GM and a board member. She has 11% influence. She has 9 separate controversies under her name around labor and collective bargaining since just 2020, including union busting in Mexico, the UAW strike, which just cleared up, illegal firings in Brazil, a strike in Canada.
Right.
Mary Barra famously wouldn't even meet with a union back in, 2019 before this. We have, she is basically the poster child for the UAW on how not to negotiate with a union, right? So she's going to be giving Bob Iger advice on how to deal with unionizing character performers. Safra Katz, she's the Oracle CEO. She's on the Disney board, 1% influence, but she has 4 controversies dealing with discrimination against women, people of color, and just for fun, she's ageist, apparently. Mark Parker, ex-Nike CEO.
Yeah.
He's a board member as well, 12% influence. Harassment, female discrimination, failure to pay overtime, sweatshops, just throw that in.
Yeah,
That's
they have a
fun
sweaty
bonus.
supply chain, don't they, over at Nike?
And Maria Lagomasino and Carolyn Everson are both on the Coca-Cola board together.
Oh.
They have a combined 26% influence at Disney. There are failure to pay overtime wages and racial discrimination issues there.
Where, Coca-Cola?
At Coca-Cola.
Okay.
These are all the companies that they're on boards of, not Disney, right? I'm not telling you the problems at Disney. I'm telling you the problems that these board members have faced everywhere. A combined 50% of board influence, that's 1/2, have sat on boards with labor issues that are ongoing in just the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's the people who are getting paid by investors to keep Bob Iger and management honest in a conversation with a unionizing character performers.
To our point that we made earlier, you really only need one like anti-union board member from a Fortune 500 company, right? Like this is where shareholders get confused. Like, especially with issues like diversity. Yes, there's 3 women that you just mentioned, and Derica Rice is a black man from Target. But when they all represent the same management interest, the same anti-labor interest, it's really the same person. You don't need 5 of them. Just take one of them.
Yeah, we talked about this with the Starbucks proxy on the proxy countdown yesterday, about how that's a board that all looks the same, even though they're all highly diverse and look different on paper. They're actually all from the same management style.
All the same age.
They're all the same. Yeah, they're all the same age.
And they're all CEOs of companies that basically sell addictions like pizza, sneakers, coffee.
It just strikes me that we see a headline like the character performers announce plans to unionize, and we think, we might think about Bob Iger. But you don't think about, he's literally surrounded himself with people who's spent multiple board meetings talking about unionization and labor issues, all of which have been resolved fairly badly.
Matt,
right? Like, so that's your advice set.
I know how we could solve this. We could restore the magic.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Nelson Peltz. And finally, the people do matter if all you little people would just pay a little bit. This is your third option. Because I saw this headline, would you pay to fight climate change? 69% of the world's population would be willing to contribute 1% of their personal income to curb global warming, study claims.
Okay.
That seems good, right?
I guess.
The researchers surveyed 130,000 people from 125 countries. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of countries.
And the worst results were from countries with the most money, obviously. The U.S., the U.K., Canada, France, Australia.
Where their 1% is basically meaningless. Yeah.
Yeah. They all were the ones who rejected the idea of losing 1% of their valuable money. They hovered around 50% of people agreeing. But overall,
who would disagree with this?
Regular people were willing to take 1% out of their income. 1%. And put it towards climate change. But let's do some populist math.
Yeah.
Because if we assume we could levy a 1% climate fund, and we use the net income per capita by country times the current labor population in those countries. So let's figure out how much money we could get if everybody who's working got average wage and paid 1%. We came up with $2.8 trillion, which is literally exactly the number that scientists say we need to invest, starting effectively 2 years ago, now-ish, every single year in order to curb climate change by 2050, right?
Okay.
So that would be the perfect number. But meanwhile, when you do the math, there are 3,100 billionaires in the world, 3,100. So the 2.8 trillion comes from like
regular
the labor
Joes
force of trillions of people, right? There are 3,100 billionaires. If we were to force every one of them to not be allowed to have, say, more than $20 billion.
Even that seems like
$20 billion. $20 billion. That you couldn't have more than $20 billion, okay? They would donate everything but $20 billion to a climate fund. It would only take 94 billionaires to pay. There are only 94 billionaires with more than 20 billion in net worth, and it will only take 65 of them to pay for the whole fucking thing by themselves. 65
Matt,
people.
That's their money.
Could pay for the entire, we would levy a 1% tax
never get rid
on
of.
like garbage men and librarians to pay for climate change.
Are you equating garbage men with librarians? What are you doing there?
No, I'm saying that these are the people who struggle to make money on a regular basis. When inflation goes up a nanometer, they can't buy food anymore. And yet it would take 65 people to solve the entire crisis if we let them just have $20 billion each instead of hundreds of billions.
But
Never settle.
What about this fake billionaire pledge that goes around it, but they pretend like they're going to give their money away? So why don't they just start now?
Yeah, they're going to give it away to like equine fecal cancer and like whatever their like thing du jour is.
Well, that's an
like,
important issue. So how
we have
dare
to
you?
beg them for money. So here are your three options. The real options here
feel
are
exhausted,
governance.
Matt.
Governance doesn't matter until it does. And we're saying people do. Disneyland character performers announced plans to unionize, and the people who are going to oversee that are a horrible bunch for that. And climate change, fighting climate change would take 1% of everyone's income, or $20 billion cap for 65 people.
65 people. Jesse,
65.
Jesse, you have to go first. I am so
And I'm not
lost.
even a socialist. I'm a capitalist. This is insane.
Sounds very socialist.
But this is in 20. But
it
I was
is
doing the
crazy.
math and I was like, cap it at $1 billion. I was like, oh man, even I feel like you should have more than $1 billion. And I went up to like 5,
wrong with
10. I
you?
was like, let's make it ridiculous. 20 billion means your kids would never have to work. They still would have plenty of money.
But why is that? Why is that an ideal that your
Okay, I
kids
gotta
don't
vote.
work? Yeah, you vote, Jesse.
I gotta vote. I'm voting for the Disney headline, but
Yeah.
Matt's analysis of it, not the headline.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but okay, fine.
Well, the Disney board sucking at facing
Disney board
unions.
sucking
They're
is the
gonna
asshole of
make
the
it
week.
terrible. Yeah.
Look,
This
it's
is
a
not gonna
good
go well.
it's a good vote. I don't want to talk about Tesla. I mean, I gotta go with the. I mean, I'm a democratic socialist. I guess I'd call myself. I'm not a pure socialist. So I gotta go with the third story. You know, it's funny. There was another poll released this week that I tagged that said in America, I think it's like 16% of Americans don't believe in climate change, and I was like feeling good about that. That seemed low to me.
Yeah, that's really low now. Yeah, that's really low.
But yeah, 65 people. I gotta vote for that. I mean, the things that these I mean, they're men, really, right? Unless they're daughters
unless they're
of tycoons,
unless they're Mackenzie Bezos
or ex-wives.
ex-wife,
You're talking about
or
men.
their family. Yeah, it's men.
and a lot of these men are rich because there are no guardrails on what they're doing, and like the Zuckerbergs of the world, so they grow at these ridiculous speeds, which is why they're so rich.
I mean, a lot of them are the biggest contributors to global
these
warming and
problems
climate
that we're
change, this
referring to.
problem.
I know
Yes.
it's maddening. So I'll vote for that and let you break the tie.
I'm going to go with Disney, because the 65 number drives me nuts. But the Disney one is such an obvious sort of case of no one cares. You read that headline and you think, you don't think of Mary Barra, Safra Katz, and Mark Parker. You don't think of those people. You think of Disney in this abstract way. And really, to me, those are the people who are going to be sitting down and being like, what do we do about the unionizing character performers? And they'll say things like, oh, when we had the UAW strike, here was the hardline tactic we took, right? Like,
Well,
and this is you end up in places where you because of the people around that table.
yes.
It's not the decision
This
that you
is-
should be making.
Referring back to what Jesse said about the New York Times article about Robin Denholm, this is why that reporting is so important. That if it was although of course they didn't even name her in the headline.
Yeah, it's so
But-
important they forgot her name.
But if these stories were covered regularly, if we regularly referred to the people that actually make decisions at these companies, maybe people at least would have the knowledge to weigh in on these conversations. Right now, there's such a barrier between the two worlds. Other than us, I don't know who hammers at this more. But I think we should be breaking down these barriers. We should be talking about these things more regularly. But anyway.
Someone inside BlackRock's voter choice should have all this information.
Why don't
Let's
we move
do
on?
exhausting is, because now I'm exhausted.
I'm already exhausted.
This is how it happens every single week. We should do exhausting is first.
No,
Or
yours.
I'll just
no.
pick a new segment.
Matt, yours is the category that kills us. You have the greatest assholes and always ruins Jesse.
It's
Yeah,
not
that's
that
true.
hard. Every story you choose is basically some asshole behind
It's not
it.
my fault. Yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
All right. Our last conversation is actually a very good segue because the first thing I chose was, I don't know if this is exactly what I was trying to pinpoint exhausting this, but I have the unforeseen outcomes of strikes.
Oh, I hate this story. I hate this.
And it's this headline: Ford CEO, whose name is Farley, what's his first name? Jim Farley.
Jim Farley.
Jim Farley says he will think carefully about where to build future factories after last year's auto workers strike. Quote, our relationship has changed.
I mean, this is just horrible.
So it's just like, really, Farley, this is your takeaway? Like, not that your employees deserve living wages, not that, they deserved to go up against, push back a little bit. So basically, Farley said that he's always taken pride in his relationship with UAW because they've avoided strikes since the 70s. So, of course, now when they push back, our relationship has changed. So this is what he said.
Yeah.
He said that their reliance on the UAW turned out to be that they were the first plant that was shut down. So directly correlated.
And how about this, Jim Farley? Every one of your advertising scheme at Ford is this bullshit. Like, you just way deeply into this patriotic nationalist nonsense about your Ford trucks. I mean, this is just such hypocrisy that you would threaten to displace American workers, that you'd be upset about their gains. I mean, it's really just, it's
Isn't that
just
what
nuts.
Bobby Newport
That's a
did
great
in
point,
Parks and
Damien.
Rec?
Bobby Newport.
Actually, what strikes me is Jim Farley, you're a fake CEO, right? Like, your company's owned by the Fords.
I mean,
like,
it's true.
It's a dual class company, which
Ford
means
family.
either Farley is speaking for the Fords,
Well, of course.
or Farley is speaking as a CEO, and the Fords are going to have to tell him, shut up. Like,
I mean, the
just
Ford
shut your
family
mouth.
basically.
Which one do we think it is?
Didn't the Ford family basically invent, like, hating your worker?
I think they did, yeah.
I just can't.
That was part of the
just,
patent.
It's just tiring that that's the outcome. So
Oh,
it's like,
it's-
okay,
it's the
we're all
worst.
excited about, jazzed up about strikes, but there's also going to be some backlash that comes down, maybe in the form of not using these factories and outsourcing.
And Jesse,
yeah.
I could say, Jesse, this should be an issue that the left and the right should unite on.
Both,
Absolutely.
yeah.
One thing we should unite on is supporting the American worker and not offshoring any of our factories. I mean, this is just something that we should be all agreeing on. That
Well,
we
I do
don't
think-
is mind blowing.
I almost, one of the like the early pre-production stories I had pulled was there's a strike happening at Molson Coors.
Yeah.
And
In Canada?
I'm not sure if it was in Canada. No, I think it was in the U.S.
Okay.
And I made notes that, like, is this, if the conservatives in this country don't boycott Coors because of this, because striking seems really woke, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
I
If you
guess,
go on
but
strike,
it shouldn't be woke. Again, it should be an issue, and the left and right should be agreeing on.
Well, I'm just
the
saying,
American
like-
worker being in the middle class should be something we all celebrate.
if they strike and conservatives don't boycott it because striking is woke, looking for more employee benefits, then it really was just about trans people and
Well,
gays,
we
right?
knew
like
that.
that's
We knew
knew
that.
that, but it didn't that make it obvious. But this is the second order effects of winning. This is what happens, right?
What else you got, Jesse?
Yeah. All right. I haven't talked about Florida in a while, so I figured I'd bring them back.
You don't have to read any more. Just say
This-
Florida.
Well, it is Florida, but I've got a good headline.
Yeah.
Cultivated meat could help decarbonize food. Florida wants to ban it.
Why? Why do they
But
not ban it?
I just have to
Come on, that's
read.
funny.
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
have
Great
to read a
headline.
quote from.
That's a good headline. That's good.
Okay, but this is even better. Here's a quote from Meatball Ron himself.
Oh.
The legislature is doing a bill.
They're
They're trying to protect our meat, and we're gonna. They're trying to protect our meat, and we're gonna have meat in Florida. We're not gonna do the fake meat. That doesn't work. Like, what is this quote? Is this a 8-year-old?
This guy's
gonna-
he's
That
Ivy
just got
League
finished.
educated. He's
We're
Ivy
gonna
League
have
educated.
meat in Florida. We're gonna have meat.
We're gonna have. We're not gonna do that fake meat.
We're
That's
doing
not
a
gonna
bill.
work for us. So
I love this.
Yeah. Anyways,
This doesn't exhaust me.
I'm just like, really?
Why
You're
is it so
threatened. You're
stupid?
threatened by
Why?
cultivated meat that hasn't
Yeah.
even been proved to be scalable.
Why
Ron?
is it
really?
so important to slaughter like animals that live in captivity? Why
It
is
is
that so
meat.
important?
Yeah, it's meat that's taken from live cells and just reproduced. It's
I
like
don't-
actual meat. It's not even fake. It's not even fake.
don't know what's wrong
it's
with
real
people.
meat.
So I would.
One of our listeners, can you call me tonight and tell me what's wrong with people? I don't understand what's wrong. I don't understand what's going on.
It's
So I'm not
crazy.
sure I would eat cultivated meat anyway.
I
right?
would.
Like I don't eat
over
enough meat.
slaughtered cow. Of course you would.
I don't really eat
So
meat
would you
that
become a
much. Like,
vegetarian?
no, but
Oh.
I would just eat regular meat,
you-
much less of
But
it,
you
right?
eat responsible meat to begin. This is a big win if you're like getting factory farmed
Yeah.
meat
I
where
get
the
it.
animals are
I'm not
treated
opposed
terribly.
to it. I think it's funny on its face because like there
Everything
are
he says is
4
funny on its
people
face.
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Florida who even have
Yeah.
cultivated meat. Maybe like there is no cultivated. They're banning
There's
the
probably
idea.
not yet a restaurant. There's like 4 restaurants in the nation so far.
I mean,
you
that
could get it at.
he couldn't
Well,
even probably
because
say
the
the process
subsidies-
of cultivating meat. Like that's just a
Yeah,
joke.
but
It's
only
silly.
because they subsidize these slaughterhouses and factories so much that's the only reason why we don't see cultivated meat.
I
It's
want
too
Bob
expensive.
Iger to announce they're only serving cultivated
Cultivated
meat at Disney from now on as a
would be
troll. That
cool.
would be great.
What
All
else
right,
you got,
what's
Jesse?
next?
All right. So last is we kind of talked about this, but Uber announces its first share buyback program with an authorization for up to $7 billion worth. But what's exhausting to me is that while you see this headline in the news, you're also reading headlines like Uber and Lyft drivers are staging a nationwide protest on Valentine's Day.
course.
I saw that.
And you have headlines like this, which really got me going. Uber's smooth operator, Dara whatever.
Yeah, it
has
is
done
whatever. I agree with you.
something Travis Kalanick never could do, turn a profit.
Yeah.
So now we're giving Dara all the credit when really he's just stealing money from the contractors that
He is.
make the business run.
Absolutely. You're absolutely
So
right.
I just hate that everybody's rejoicing. The shareholders, everybody is happy about this because they're going to make some money. And Dara himself is probably going to make a ton of money. But
Already has.
there are these other things going on, and it's
Yeah.
just frustrating.
So Uber IPO'd in 2019, and 2023 is the first year they made a profit. And that's not including like the years they were private building up to this. So first of all, congratulations investors for celebrating the fact that you invested in a company that couldn't make money for 4 years while you waited for them to make money.
Or how about just celebrating a company that puts all this money, consumer money, into car usage and not building up public transportation?
Well, I'm not going to criticize Uber for doing what
I am.
Uber does.
Believe
I'm
me,
going
I
to
am.
criticize investors for picking a company and investing in it when it doesn't make a profit. Its board has one of our legendary favorite directors on it. Ron Sugar is on the board of Uber. He's one of the most powerful directors in the world. This is like one of the most compromised boards. They all know each other. They're all a highly professional board. Congratulations. They turned a profit. But to your point, they turned it while the drivers are protesting because they don't get paid because there are reports about harassment in Ubers all the time. Like
They don't want to treat them as full employees. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going
gross.
to spend
It's gross.
$7 billion on buybacks, or authorized to. They haven't done it, but $7 billion.
And the share is the highest it's ever been because of announcing that.
It's really
Matt,
like nobody has a thought in their head anymore.
If you remember for next week, Matt, do a board analysis of Uber and let us know, like, are the directors there? Do they also come from companies that do this kind of thing?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Ready to
All right,
vote?
so we've got 3 here. It's Ford's CEO saying the relationship has changed. The second order effects of the strike. Cultivated meat getting banned in Florida, which is just funny. And Uber's buyback /
These are all good, Jesse.
driver protests.
Thank
These
you.
are classic Jesse
It's
ones.
classic Jesse. I mean, I could
if there
vote
was
for
like
any of these and feel good.
one on mushrooms and one on the pay gap or pregnant women, it would be all Jesse all day.
I'm torn between share buybacks in the face of a brutalized labor force over there at Uber. I mean, they've been at war against their so-called non-employees forever. And then the Ford one, of course, like that's always the one that gets me.
Yeah, the Ford one I find hard. I'm going to vote. I'll vote first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to vote for Uber. And I'm going to vote for Uber because I bet, to Damien's point, when we look at the data, these are directors that love share buybacks. They authorize them all the time, and they probably suck at labor. I don't know. Yeah. But I think that the data is there, right? So I just need to look at it. But the fact is that the minute you turn a profit, the first thing you do is you don't give any sort of credence to the fact that the drivers were part of that. You still don't want them to be employees.
Who you refuse to call employees.
Uber was one of a consortium that spent more than $100 million in California to lobby against a bill to make drivers employees.
Your company. You have no company without them.
Right.
Yeah, you're a shitty app if you don't have anybody driving shit around, right? So. But the first thing they do is take $7 billion and hand it to shareholders.
It's just to make it interesting for you, Jesse, because I do agree with Matt, but I also the Ford CEO coming out and now threatening to displace workers, just playing this game, which is I guess another future threat to other industries and other workers who are thinking about picketing, because it is a scary thing. I mean, we celebrate it all the time, but going on strike, I mean, there can't be a more frightening thing for most workers. I mean, a lot of them don't have nest eggs to survive. Yeah. But anyway, I'll vote for that one, Ford, and I'll let you break the tie, Jesse. Although I know what you're going to pick.
Do you?
Yeah, you're going to pick Uber.
No,
she wants to
I
want
to pick Ford. I like Florida. I want to pick Ford.
All right, go ahead. Pick Ford.
Oh, no.
I will.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You're
all right,
all
wrap
wrong.
up the week before we move on.
You gotta let the music play first. You gotta enjoy the march.
I'm not going to wrap up the week. We've talked long enough. I don't know why we talked so much today without Aria. Let's just get right to the winners.
Let's do it.
I'll go first.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jesse.
I've got a pretty weird winner. I'm choosing The Rain because The Rain is rusting Cybertruck.
Oh, I love this. That is the best winner ever.
Rain 1, Cybertruck 0.
That is a solid winner.
I mean, I thought car companies figured out how to prevent rust in 1977.
That feels basic.
Yeah.
That feels very, very, very,
good work,
very
Elon.
elementary.
I actually watched a lot of reviews of the Cybertruck, and they were like, this is weird. Every single one of them thinks the same thing. So I love all of it. I'm going to choose Cultivated Meat as the winner.
Why?
Mostly because is there a better marketing campaign than Florida's banning us now?
I was going to say, for the rest of the...
It's
for the rest of the country, it's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely, Matt. That's a great point.
They won.
My winner, and you had to listen to the other show we did this week, Woke Data Wednesday. But my winner, I went into great depth about the owners of the Kansas City Chiefs. But in summation, I'm gonna say that my winner is the creepy, bigamist, oil pimp, silver owning failure, white supremacist, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz donating Nepo baby Hunt family. That's the family that owns the Kansas City Chiefs. One of the most despicable American families that I've seen in a long time. They are the winners of the week for because their team, they won a stupid game and they got to hold up a stupid trophy, so they're my winners of the week.
I don't like that winner. Do you have predictions?
No, obviously.
I have a prediction, and this is only Matt's going to care about this prediction. I predict that we stop using this service called Riverside because
it's about damn time.
Even as today's show demonstrates, I hope the audience doesn't hear this, but there is just enough of a delay between me and Jesse and Matt that it's just making it difficult to hold a conversation. And so every show, I got to applaud you, Riverside, for
you
throwing
have to choose a free. It has to be a free platform that you.
Why does it have to be free?
Because I said so.
Because Jesse the Money Whisperer. said you can't
okay.
spend
But
any money.
I still predict that we stop using Riverside because I can hear Matt is getting more and more pissed off about it every week. That's my
every
prediction.
single show, which means my final winner of the week is, or my prediction is Uber announces a loss in 2024 and attributes the entire loss to buybacks. They gave more money than they earned in 2024 to investors in order to keep them happy. That's my prediction.
Yeah, and subway riders are still going to be confused why their subway systems suck while all their friends take Uber and Lyft everywhere.
That's all we got. That's our show. That's Jesse the Money Whisperer and Damien Hazelnut Rollis. I'm your analyst, Matt Muscardi. Ari is snotting somewhere, probably on baby Miles. We'll be back next week with more stuff. Until then, goodbye.